At the beginning of part 2, we see that the love triangle was about to start early. Jae is telling Yuri about her life story and her relationship with her family. Yuri then shares his own background, revealing that he has a younger sister and lives with his parents in Japan. Yuri keeps glancing at Jae and admiring her as she eats. When she notices, he tries to brush it off. He asks her if she's the one helping CN, and she tells him that CN is like a brother to her, which makes him feel at ease. He then asks if she's ever been in a relationship before, and she shares that she's been in 2. The first guy turned out to be a jerk, so she broke up with him, while the second was seriously ill and ended up in a coma, which led to their breakup. Yuri thinks to himself, I think I'm starting to like her, but I can't do that because Kiefer will be mad at me. He's standing outside, ready to storm in and drag me out by my red hair. Kiefer calls his friends and leaves to meet them, while Jae asks Yuri if he's ever been in love. Yuri tells her that he had a one-sided crush. She teases him, saying, "What? On the school's most popular girl? Don't feel bad?" Yuri reassures her that he's moved on, and Jae laughs, joking that he's behind her. He gets startled, but then laughs at her playful attitude. She tells him she needs to leave because she left her bike outside. Yuri offers to spend the day with her and take her home afterward, and she agrees. Meanwhile, Kiefer is in a terrible mood and wants to pick a fight with anyone. The situation escalates when they find out that the genius hacker couldn't break into the school's system or hack the cameras to find out who stole the money. This makes them think CN might not be such a great hacker after all, and that he's been outdone by kids. Someone suggests checking the cameras at the school itself, but Kiefer shoots down the idea, saying, "Are you stupid? We're from the security department. If we get caught, we'll get a beating." He cancels that plan and orders them to proceed with a second plan, which remains a mystery. Suddenly, someone asks about Yuri, and Kiefer loses his temper, saying, "Am I not enough for you?" He then decides to punish them by making them play basketball with him. Meanwhile, Yuri is the sweet one who offers to take Jae home on her bike. Jae is annoyed because she thought he'd take her home by car. She gets nervous about falling and grabs onto him, placing her hands on his stomach. He laughs and begs her to remove them because it tickles him. She moves her hands to his shoulder, but the bike loses balance, causing her to fall and get injured. Yuri, on the other hand, remains unharmed. He takes out his handkerchief and ties it around her leg, helping her stand and seating her on the bike while he walks beside her to support her. When they reach her house, he carries her inside, pretending she's exhausted. From their misfortune, Jae's grandmother arrives home and sees them. She scolds Yuri, saying, "Put her down, son. You're embarrassing us in front of the neighbors." He insists that he'll stay to help. She then tells him to come inside and sit on the couch. Yuri takes the first aid kit and insists on treating Jae's injury himself. Jae clings to her grandmother because of the pain, but Yuri's gentle touch feels soothing, and she barely notices the pain until he finishes. Jae's grandmother, who's observant, notices that they make a good pair. She asks, "Are you her boyfriend?" Jae quickly denies it, but the grandmother insists that they seem like they're dating. Yuri gets embarrassed, his face turning as red as his hair. Jae explains that they're just classmates, but the grandmother insists that Yuri stay and spend the day with them. Iris, who's not a fan of this, tries to kick him out, but the grandmother is persistent and insists that he stay for dinner. When Iris objects again, the grandmother grabs him by the ear and tells him to behave, warning him not to cause trouble. Everyone standing around gets scared because they know not to mess with her. During dinner, the grandmother interrogates Yuri about his family and is pleased to learn that his family is Japanese and lives there. She asks him to say a few words in Japanese to show off her skills, and she seems pleased to learn that Yuri comes from a wealthy family. Meanwhile, Iris still doesn't like him and asks Jae to kick him out after dinner. She ignores him and leaves him barking like a dog, while Yuri takes the peas from her plate because he loves them. In return, she takes the potatoes, and it's like they're sharing a mutual understanding. The grandmother notices all of this silently and comments that Jae should learn to cook what Yuri likes because, "You two seem like you're going to get married. I can sense there's something between you." The problem, my friends, is that Yuri is glowing and feels like the grandmother really understands things. Suddenly, Jae receives a message from Kiefer, but she ignores it and stays focused on Yuri. After they finish eating, Jae walks Yuri out. We notice that his car arrived to pick him up, and they laugh together. Yuri feels happy when she tells him, "Good night." He stands there, looking like hearts and fireworks are going off, and honestly, she reminds me of Suho from True Beauty. If anyone else sees the resemblance, comment below because I don't want to feel like I'm the only one. After Yuri leaves, Jay remembers Kiefer's message and opens it, discovering that they've changed the plan. The next day at school, Jay is surprised when one of Kiefer's crew stops her from entering the classroom. But our girl, like a pro, distracts him with food, sneaks past him, and sees that they've cornered the girl with the backpack and are beating up her boyfriend, trying to make him confess. Jay yells at Kiefer and tells him to stop because they're not going to get a confession this way, and if the school finds out, there will be big trouble. She insists that kindness works better in situations like this. Sure enough, after they release the girl, she checks on her boyfriend and eventually says she'll confess. But before she can speak, fear stops her. Jay is ready to pull her hair out, but the guys hold her back and say, "Not everything works with kindness." Kiefer finds Jay's attitude irritating and orders his guys to hold her back while he deals with the boyfriend himself. And as you know, Kiefer's muscles could send someone straight to Mars with one hit. Fearing for her boyfriend, the girl confesses, saying that CN is innocent and that someone else asked her to frame him. She's too scared to reveal who it is. Suddenly, Rocky steps out from behind and reveals that she recorded the confession. Jay realizes this must be the second plan. Jay looks surprised, but Reiki says, "I came here for you." CN interrupts, saying, "No, she's lying. She came for me. She still loves me." And of course, all the guys standing around cheer him on. They take the video of the confession and give it to their hacker friend, who uploads it to the bully's account, making it look like she confessed to being the mastermind behind the scheme. When the bully finds out, she gets angry and suspects Keiko, the only one with her password. She confronts Keiko, who says, "Are you stupid? I've been here the whole time. How could I have done that?" She starts searching the school for the real culprit. Meanwhile, Kiefer calmly tells Jay, "I solved the problem with CN, so you should thank me." When she refuses, he tells her to pay him for his work. When she refuses again, he says, "Then I want something else," giving her a sly look. Jay stands her ground, thinking, "No way. There's nothing more valuable than honor." Kiefer laughs and says, "Seriously? You think I'd look at you like that? I was talking about the food in your bag." He then gives her 3 options. Either you pay me $25,000, thank me properly, or bring me food every day until we graduate. Jay tries to negotiate the cost of the ingredients since she'll be paying out of her own pocket. Kiefer distracts her, steals her food, and runs off, leaving her cursing him out. When she turns around, she finds Yuri, the gentle one, waiting for her with food. They head to their usual spot, where they find CN and David waiting for them to eat together. Jay asks about Mika and Calyx, and they explain that they're in the next room because they don't want to disturb them since they're a couple. Jay acts nonchalant and shares her food with CN and David. Yuri is touched by her kindness, so he surprises her with a luxurious meal that she's never had in her life. When she struggles to eat it, he takes the opportunity to feed her himself. She finds it delicious, but she invites the guys to try some too, worried that CN might be eyeing the food. The guys suddenly ask her, "If Kiefer and Eris fought, who would you side with?" Jay feels conflicted, but Yuri tells her to eat and think about it later because her answer is important. The next day, as Jay heads to school, a new guy with blue eyes and perfect English offers her a ride because she's carrying a lot of stuff. She refuses, thinking, "Just because he's handsome and speaks English fluently doesn't mean I should agree." Right after, Yuri arrives in his fancy car and offers her a ride instead. She accepts and, during the ride, asks him how he happened to pass by her street when he doesn't live there. Clearly he came for her, but he lies, saying he was running an errand. He offers to help her carry her things, but she refuses, saying, "No way, this food is for that fool Kiefer." Just then, Kiefer shows up, steals the bag, and runs into the classroom. There's no need to explain what happens next. When the hungry guys find food, they raid it immediately. Jay gets angry and starts cursing at Kiefer, blaming him for everything. She sits down when the teacher enters the class and announces that the school festival is coming up and everyone needs to prepare. Jay is confused, so they explain that it's a week-long celebration filled with activities, games, and even beauty contests. Of course, the school bully has been winning the contest every year. Each department has a responsibility, and Kiefer's group is assigned to guard and clean the place. Because of this, Kiefer refuses to participate in the festival, feeling that it's humiliating to be seen as servants for other departments. But Jay disagrees and wants to participate to bring something new to the festival. Kiefer protests, and they argue. The class ends up divided. Some side with Kiefer because they're scared of him and agree with his logic, while others side with Jay, tempted by the promise of lots of food at the festival and the possibility of meeting beautiful girls. The teacher steps in and tells them to calm down, work out an agreement, and let him know their decision. During the break, Jay walks with CN, who suggests they have lunch together alone. Jay, realizing he's being flirty, gets annoyed and calls Yuri instead. She tells Yuri she'll join him and the others shortly, then takes Kiefer's lunchbox to give it back to him. Kiefer is obviously jealous and doesn't want her to leave. He orders her to eat lunch there with him, and when she refuses, he calls the rest of the group over and makes them eat there too, forcing Jay to stay. Fortunately for Jay, she ends up sitting next to Yuri. The rest of the group looks on hungrily, wanting to steal food, but Kiefer warns them that from now on, stealing food is banned. Everyone has to bring their own. Kiefer then sits between Jay and Yuri, thinking it'll make Jay focus on him, but she completely ignores him, feeling sorry for the rest of the guys who don't have food. Jay suggests cooking food for everyone since there's a kitchen nearby, but Kiefer yells at her not to touch the equipment because it belongs to one of their friends. The surprise is that the owner is a boy named Eamon, who can't attend school because he works at his father's restaurant. Unfortunately, his family is in debt because his mother spends all the money they earn recklessly. Jay feels bad for Eamon and tells her friends that they should visit him. Kiefer warns her not to interfere in people's lives, but the rest of the group insists on going, so he has no choice but to go along with it. When they arrive at the restaurant, they notice that the place is empty. Eamon explains that he plans to quit school because if he doesn't pay off the debt soon, the restaurant will be shut down. Jay suggests that they work there to help improve the restaurant's income, and they agree not to take any pay. Once they start working, the number of customers increases dramatically thanks to Yuri's popularity. Despite this, Yuri keeps scowling at the customers until Jay pulls him aside and says, "Smile a little, your smile is charming." He listens to her, and as soon as he smiles, the customers cheer in excitement. The girls' reactions are relatable and hilarious. Kiefer starts to get jealous, feeling like Yuri is stealing the spotlight and Jay's attention. The rivalry escalates, and both of them try to outdo each other. Yuri starts taking selfies with customers, so Kiefer raises the stakes by letting customers touch his muscles. The situation gets out of control. Everyone's losing their minds, wondering where manners and decency went. Jay stands there happily, watching as Yuri shows off his muscles to the customers. The girls in the restaurant are losing their minds, and Yuri has muscles that no one seems able to ignore. Kiefer can't stand being outdone, and the competition continues until nighttime. Suddenly, Kiefer burns his hand on some hot food. Jay is standing next to him, so she tells him to rest and brings him the first aid kit. She takes care of his burn, and Kiefer starts melting, his face practically turning into a heart. After a moment, he snaps out of it and blames her, saying, "This wouldn't have happened if we hadn't come here." Jay thanks him for everything he did today, including helping CN. The atmosphere calms down, but then Aris, Keela, the bully, and their group show up at the restaurant, gathering together with a suspicious look in their eyes. The group was standing around facing each other, almost like a standoff between turkeys, and we thought a showdown was about to happen. But nothing happened because the bully just said, "Take it easy, guys." Then she called the heroes to order food, and we noticed that Yuri wasn't fond of them. Before he could reach out, he ran inside to avoid any problems. Kiefer tried to keep things calm to prevent anything from happening. Outside, the bully mocked Jay, saying, "If you're working as a waitress, it suits you." Her friend also mocked Kiefer, saying, "Aren't you from a rich family? What's with this downfall? You look like you're struggling." Jay didn't stay silent, letting them know that they worked hard and weren't spoiled like them. She also called Mika over to irritate the bully, showing her that her friend was working with them. She asked Micah and Calix to take the orders, threatening that if she stayed another second, she might drag the bully by her hair. But Kiefer intervened and said, "No, I want you to take the orders." He put his hand on her shoulder and pulled her towards him, and of course, our girl felt flustered, thinking, "With all these muscles around me, I might faint." They started taking orders, and when it came to Kiefer's turn, Jay moved as if he were her cousin. She brushed Kiefer's hand aside, acting like he hadn't noticed her from earlier. Kiefer decided to tease her back, saying, "What would you like, my love? What do you want, my dear?" Kiefer stood there like a lion, unaffected. The heroes informed them that the food would arrive shortly. Suddenly, Keiko received a message from someone named Rome, but he ignored it. Meanwhile, Kiefer and Calix went into the kitchen. Calix mentioned that Jay and Kiefer had a strange relationship, and they seemed to dislike each other. He suggested that if they continued with their plan and something happened to Jay, Kiefer wouldn't be affected. He proposed changing the plan to remove Jay from it, and Kiefer started to consider it. During this time, Jay found Keiko asking her out. She was shocked, but he said Kiefer didn't know anything and was waiting for her answer. Then David entered, yelling at Keiko for acting cold towards her. It seemed like there was tension between them. Jay tried to control the situation by pulling David aside, pretending there was work to be done. Keiko watched her and said, "I'm still waiting for your answer, beautiful." When she and David went inside, he exposed her in front of everyone, asking, "Are you going out with Keiko?" Everyone was shocked, especially Kiefer, who asked, "Do you like him?" She denied it, and before they could corner her any further, she ran out. Kiefer got angry and sensed that Keiko had plans for Jay, which worried him. Jay later asked Mossy if there were any issues between David and Keiko. He said he didn't like gossip, but informed her that they had once been in a fight at an abandoned factory. When they arrived, David was severely injured while Keiko was holding a pipe, leaving everyone unsure if he was responsible for hurting David. At that time, David was the department head and had a policy of, "Stay out of trouble, my dear." Since he did nothing during the incident, most students thought he was a coward. When Kiefer became the leader, everyone was happy, knowing he was brave and wouldn't let things slide. Kiefer teased her about liking Keiko, and when she denied it, he jokingly asked if she liked him instead. She threatened to steal his pie, and he stuck his tongue out at her. That night, Yuri escorted her home, concerned that it was late. He said, "Why do you look so tense? Relax a little, I'm feeling protective." It was clear he was happy with any time he spent with her and reminded her not to forget their plans. Afterward, he got into his car, which he jokingly claimed would be hers in the future, and drove off. Suddenly, Keiko appeared, startling Jay, who thought he was a ghost. Keiko explained that he wanted her number, but Iris refused to give it. He said he was a respectable man who wanted to do things the right way and intended to propose to her. Jay felt overwhelmed by the rapid development of their relationship. Iris then intervened, saying there would be no engagement. Keiko tried to reason with him, saying, "I'm your friend," but Iris replied, "Because you're my friend, I'm not allowing it." He further declared that Jay wasn't permitted to date or go out with anyone and kicked Keiko out. He told Jay to respect herself, reminding her that her boyfriend was still in the hospital while she was hanging around other guys. The next day, Jay left the house, anxiously looking around to make sure Keiko wasn't following her. However, she was startled by Kiefer, who joked, "Looks like you were expecting someone else." She tried to change the subject, asking him what he was doing there. He informed her that he was taking her to a meeting with the group since she was late. He drove her in his extremely fancy car, which Jay couldn't stop staring at. She started eating, and he was hungry too. Kiefer couldn't help himself, took a bite, and accidentally bit her finger. Jay was shocked, while Kiefer happily joked, "I didn't have breakfast because I was busy picking you up. You should repay me." He asked her again if she liked Keiko, and when she denied it, he warned her that he couldn't stand liars and would hang her out to dry if she lied. Jay was lost in her thoughts. After finishing breakfast, she looked at her finger, clearly still surprised. When they arrived at the restaurant, the whole group was there. Emma informed them that his father had fully recovered and would be managing the place again. This meant he could return to school, and his mother, who had changed her ways, had taken leave to help his father. They decided to rehire the former employees, which meant the group would have more time to focus on studying. Though they joked that they never really studied in the first place, Iman decided to reward everyone by letting them cook at school to make up for all the food they had missed. He asked Jay to help out since she was always ready to sacrifice, and she agreed. After that, everyone started working since the customers were about to arrive, except for Jay, who said she was hungry and wanted to have breakfast first. Kiefer, the soft-hearted one, told Micah to get her the menu so she could order whatever she wanted, adding, "She's paying for herself." Jay cursed him in her mind, thinking, "You scoundrel, I thought you'd pay for me." Kiefer then laughed, saying he was joking and that he'd actually treat her, which made her happy. Meanwhile, Yuri stood there feeling sad, thinking she was slipping away from him. The next day, Jay was having breakfast when someone from the service informed her that a colleague was waiting for her outside and that if she took too long, he'd hang her out to dry. Jay guessed it must be Kiefer, the fool, and went out ready for a fight, only to find 4 handsome men waiting for her. Now, those are the kind of men who are worth a second look. They told her she needed to come with them to buy the ingredients for the school. She asked them to wait while she changed, and one of them said, "You look amazing as you are." Jay cursed him, but Kiefer agreed, saying, "He's right, you're beautiful." And secretly, our girl melted a little. We can't blame her, we did too. As they got into the car, Yuri watched them with jealousy that could kill. They arrived at the shop and bought enough supplies to feed a whole tribe. Jay carried heavy bags, complaining, "Doesn't anyone have a conscience to help me?" Yuri was about to take the bags, but Kiefer beat him to it. Yuri felt upset and offered to help with the remaining bags, but Jay refused, insisting she was strong enough to handle it herself. The next day at school, Jay was tired and wanted to sleep. Yuri suddenly scared her from behind. She was surprised by his appearance and noticed he'd removed his glasses and put on contacts. She told him he looked great, thinking, "My man looks amazing with or without glasses." At that moment, Kiefer felt jealous, and when they went to class, Jay found Saigon sleeping and tried to wake him up. Aman stopped her, saying, "Leave him, he's like a rock, you can't wake him." They started cleaning the kitchen to store their supplies, and Jay noticed a box labeled with the name Keela. She asked what happened, and they told her Keela was a nice girl, but when she got angry, she was a demon. Once she pulled a girl's hair and injured her, and the school wanted to expel her. Instead, they transferred her here. Jay was surprised and asked how Keela returned after everything that happened. Kiefer interrupted her, saying, "It's none of your business." He whispered, "Curiosity killed the cat," and added, "Got it, kitten," before leaving. Jay felt scared but remembered how he held her hand that morning and forgot everything he did. "I told you, the hook is set." Jay started working, taking out the trash, when she noticed one of the guys acting strangely. She went to where he had been standing and found something unusual, though it wasn't clear what it was. Her curiosity got the better of her, but she couldn't ask because everyone was eating lunch. Yuri noticed something was off and asked if she was okay. Kiefer, keeping an eye on everything, seemed suspicious. David then appeared injured, and all the guys gathered around him, telling the girls to stay away. Of course, Jay and Mika eavesdropped, trying to figure out what was happening, but they failed. Jay started suspecting something was wrong since the boys were acting secretive. When they saw her, they scattered, making her feel that nobody was going to tell her anything. She took advantage of the group's focus on Kiefer to talk to David and asked, "Come on, as your close friend, tell me what happened." David explained that Keiko had announced he was going to propose to her, and David couldn't stand it, so they fought over her. Jay assured him she'd fix things between them, but David refused her help. Kiefer then ordered the guys to escort her out, saying, "She's going to make things worse." Cian was tasked to take her away, saying, "Let's go. There are dishes waiting for you." They ended up washing dishes together. Jay asked him to spill the details, but Cian said, "You know I'm not into gossip," and eventually confessed that the guys were planning something to get David's justice. He begged her not to pressure him any further, then ran out. A while later, Kiefer entered and asked, "What are you doing here, miss?" She asked him the same thing. Kiefer explained that it was the men's bathroom and that he had every right to be there. Jay argued it wasn't her fault that the girls' bathroom was out of order. He asked her for the millionth time if she liked Keiko, and she denied it. Kiefer pulled her closer, looked into her eyes and said, "Say it to my face." She told him it was none of his business and asked why he cared so much. Embarrassed, he couldn't respond, flipped the conversation and accused her of caring about him. Jay explained that she was trying to resolve the problems between the guys. Later that day, the group gathered and warned Jay not to follow them. Her curiosity got the best of her, so she tricked Eamon and slipped away, following them silently. They entered an abandoned building and Jay snuck in, hiding behind some wood. Suddenly, someone grabbed her from behind and covered her mouth. Our guys called out to Keiko, who arrived with his crew. Let's be honest, Keiko's muscles are impressive. A fight was about to break out between Keiko and David to settle things once and for all. David took off his jacket, showing off his muscles, ready to fight. But before they could do anything, someone from above stopped them and asked Kiefer, "Don't you know who's behind this?" They realized it was Ram, the gang leader they'd clashed with before. Ram revealed that he brought Jay to watch the showdown. When they tried to argue, Ram said, "Calm down, guys, I have a surprise." He brought out Jay, holding her and asking, "What's your name, beautiful?" The guys warned him to let her go, but Ram declared that no one could make him. Jay headbutted him and made a run for it, jumping from above. All the guys chased after her and... What happens next? We'll find out in the next episode.